Hello everyone, it's Helen at Journaling Planet, and today I'm going to show you a video I made after my niece and nephew had visited, and they had made some painty papers and we'd done a bit of stenciling together with some pens, just kind of random children's drawings and a bit of paint paper that I'd used to wipe the brayer off. That's what I'm going to use today to try and make some abstract art. Now, when I say I'm going to make some abstract art, I don't really mean that I'm going to create a finished piece. That wasn't really the aim of this. And as you'll see at the end, the things that I create are really quite busy. What I'm trying to do is experiment with different marks and different colours and see what works well and see what perhaps doesn't work so well. So the finished pieces actually don't turn out to be these amazing, beautiful pieces. They're just experiments in working with abstract shapes and colours, and I learned so much by doing it. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit as the video progresses. The first part of this video was me using a viewfinder to pick out particular parts of the papers that I thought were visually pleasing. And the viewfinder that I've got is just part of an old photo frame that broke. So I'm just using all the pieces of that I can. I'm using the plastic glass behind the painting to keep my surface clean, and I'm using the viewfinder to pick out particularly pleasing extracts of the papers. Another thing I should point out about this video is that I will swap in and swap out which piece I'm working on. I picked 3 different backgrounds to work on, and I decided that it would be easier if I worked on one a little bit and then put it to one side, then worked on another one and put it to one side, because it gives each layer a chance to dry. And also because every time I came back to the piece, I saw it with new eyes. So I'm not sure I would have necessarily added in certain things had I not put it to one side. It just gave me fresh ideas and a fresh perspective every single time I came back to it. So I'm starting out with these water-soluble crayons, which I really love, and just dipping them in water can create a wonderful effect on the page. And these stencils that I got from Carrie Gibson. She has a YouTube channel and she also has a stencil shop. I really recommend watching her videos and using her stencils. I just get so much inspiration, and I'm sure without watching her videos, I probably would never have had the guts to even give abstract art a go. So here I am making some large marks and some small marks. The size of the markings is just one of the many things that you have to consider, or it's good to consider, when you're making abstract art. I've learnt this through various tutorials and books that I've read before I've taken the plunge and actually tried to explore it for myself. And those of you who actually do abstract art on a regular basis will know that the size of the marks is one thing that you consider alongside the colour and the value. The value being how light or dark each shape or mark is. So obviously it's quite difficult to keep all of these things in your head when you're a beginner. So I didn't even attempt to do that. I just instinctually drew and collaged on the paper, and I tried not to overthink. In fact, I really tried hard not to overthink. The idea of this exercise was just to put lots of things down and see what happened. So as you can see, I tried different ways of putting the paint down. I used my fingers, I used a brayer, I used a brush at one point, I used crayons, just experimenting with every single different type of mark making, and also adding some little bits of collage here and there. I tried wherever possible to go with contrasting colours and putting really weird things in that you wouldn't expect. So things like this big pink heart that my niece coloured in. I don't think that really goes with that background, but that's why I wanted to include it. I wanted to see if it was possible to add that and create a finished piece that was interesting, even if it didn't really adhere to the usual rules of composition. I did find that adding white and black marks were particularly effective on these pieces, and it's something that I'm going to lean into more in future compositions. I suppose it's because they're the ultimate contrast in value. White is as bright as you can get and black is as dark as you can get on a certain compositional level. So because of that, I do find it quite pleasing to add both white and black marks to any composition that I do. And that's something I'm going to take forward into other abstract art. When I've watched tutorials by other artists who do abstract work, they seem to go for layer upon layer of mark making and colour and shapes. And so I decided to follow that example and just started making layer upon layer of marks without really knowing where it was going to go, just basically following the process and following my instincts and experimenting as much as I wanted to without worrying about the end result, which was the whole point of this. As well as mixing up the colour and the value, I was also trying to change up what kind of shapes I was putting down. So I tried circular shapes, I tried more rectangular and square shapes. I really wanted to create as many different shapes as I could on the page. I tried lines, as you can see here. I ripped the paper whilst I was creating those lines and decided I wasn't going to care about it because it was literally a piece of copier paper. And, you know, my niece is never coming back for that drawing that she originally made, so it's all fine. A little tear in the paper, well, as far as I'm concerned, that's just a bit of extra texture. Again, something that I found really effective is creating a shape in a block colour and then going over it with either white or black crayon and marking in the shape over and over again in kind of concentric detail. As you can see, I'm picking out individual details that I liked from these processes because the finished pieces, I wouldn't say you wouldn't hang them on your wall. But in making all these marks, I managed to learn a few things about what marks I do like to make and the marks that I do think work well. And definitely going in with the white and black crayon and making these kind of concentric marks was pleasing and I think improved the pieces dramatically. So you can see by this point I've really learned and I'm going to town on the white and black marks. I've learned that that's something that I like and that I want to add it to each piece to see the different effects it has with different palettes. As it turned out, by making these 3 very busy pieces, which you will see at the end of the video, they are very busy, I came to understand that actually I wanted to do abstract work that was a lot more minimal than that, possibly even of the sort of mid-century modern kind of aesthetic. And as such, I found 2 other pieces of paper that I'd left to dry in a different place when I was doing the artwork with the kids. And I did the same process. I got the viewfinder and cut some pieces out. And I actually put very minimal other items on there. And one of them, I really liked how it came out. So I felt like I'd created my first piece of abstract art that I really liked. And again, that will be shown in my April flip through when I do that at the end of the month. And this was the whole point of me trying things out. I wanted to do abstract art for a very long time. I've always known that it's more difficult than it looks. And so I was a bit intimidated to actually give it a go because I just knew that my first attempts weren't going to be that brilliant. But in taking the leap, in making these pieces that are not that brilliant, in experimenting with different marks and realizing which marks I like, which marks I don't like, it's led me to the place that I'm happy with. At this point, because I'd kept the lines quite rigid, I decided I was just going to scribble all over this piece in white. I sort of knew when I did it that it probably wasn't going to end very well, but I was in this to experiment, so I decided to do it. I actually don't think it looks as bad as I was expecting it to. So I was deliberately sabotaging, at various points just to see what it looked like and just how good or bad these ideas were. To finish up this piece, I decided I was going to collage 2 big pieces of block colour on, and then I muddied up that piece, tried to rub it off with a cloth, made it even muddier, so I had to get another piece of the same colour and stick it back on top. So there's a little lesson about having clean hands and a clean rag, unless you want to have to do everything twice. I did actually put some more pencil marks on this one when I finished it up. Just a couple of extra pencil marks, a little bit of writing in pencil, and a little bit more white crayon when I put it into my journal. And I'll show that in the April flip through that I do at the end of the month when I show my journal pages. The other thing I was interested in exploring was different directions. So I collaged this leaf stencil in one direction, and then I decided I was going to collage it in another direction and go over it with the white crayon again and just see what effect that created. I actually really liked that as a finishing touch. I think the scribbling on that piece probably wasn't the best idea, but I'm glad I learned that and that I probably wouldn't do that again to such an extent. Like I might scribble in a corner, but I wouldn't scribble over a whole piece necessarily. Unless I was really angry and I wanted the anger to come through, maybe that would be a good way to use it. But this is not very emotion filled, this process. This is just me kind of seeing what's pleasing. Again, with this piece, I did do a few more pencil marks just to finish it off, and that will be shown in my April flip through. There wasn't too much of a change to what you're seeing here, just a little bit of an outline in pencil. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it's conveyed what I wanted it to convey, i.e. that sometimes process is more important than the end product. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this ugly art period. And I look forward to hopefully creating something a little bit more beautiful in the next video. Until then, take care and happy journaling.